As exports are skyrocketing, trade partners clamoring for more, and the global market buzzing with anticipation, is it possible the Western media is lying to us all about the real state of Chinese economy?
It's the most impressive economic success story of our time.
Chinese trade numbers gave local and global growth hopes a lift on Thursday. New data showed overseas shipments jumping 7.1% on the year over January and February. That was more than 3 times what economists had expected.
China's economy is booming, and recent changes may have global repercussions for businesses and consumers.
Exports grew 2.3% from a year earlier in December, much more than expected.
China's banking system is far more robust and stable than the Western media would have us to believe.
Imagine this. It's the beginning of 2024, and China's export game is on fire. They're shipping goods left, right, and center, and their trade buddies are gobbling them up like candy. So, what's fueling this trade? Is China's export boom just getting started? Or is it a passing fad? And lastly, what challenges lie ahead for China's export expansion in 2024? It turns out that China's been cozying up to some new pals in the world, like Russia, India, and a bunch of up-and-comers in Africa and Latin America. And boy, are they making waves. Now, here's the plot twist. While Western money wizards were busy predicting a slump in China's economic mojo for 2024, the reality couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, in the first 2 months alone, China's exports shot up by a whopping 7.1%. That's not just beating the pants off the measly 1.9% growth that economists were expecting. It's leaving them in the dust. And get this, it even outpaced the 2.3% bump we saw back in December. So what does this all mean? Is China's export boom just a flash in the pan? Or are we witnessing the start of something big? Grab your popcorn, guys, because the show's just getting started, and we're in for a wild ride. Picture the kickoff of 2024. China's trade scene was like a bustling marketplace with goods flying off the shelves faster than you can say, trade deal. But here's where it gets juicy. Their buddies over in Russia were buying up Chinese goods like there was no tomorrow. We're talking about a whopping 19.8% surge in exports to Russia, raking in a cool $15 billion. And that's not all. They were also stocking up on Russian goodies, with imports shooting up by a whopping 31.3% to $18.65 billion. But here's the thing. All this trading left China with a bit of a deficit, ringing in at around $3.6 billion. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. In fact, things are looking pretty rosy for China on the trade front this year. Imports are up by 3.5% from last year, and their trade surplus, that's the difference between what they export and what they import, has expanded to a whopping $125.2 billion. That's a 7% increase from this time last year, guys.
But I think a new narrative is being weaved, which is, the economy is starting to come back to life.
So what's driving all this trade frenzy? Well, it's all about demand, my friends. Countries like Russia and China's pals in the BRICS gang, along with other up-and-comers like Africa, Latin America, and India, are hungry for Chinese goods. We're talking about a 21% jump in shipments to Africa, a 20.6% spike in Latin America, and a 12.8% boost in India. These numbers don't lie. They're a sign of the growing bond between China and these regions, even as the world's geopolitical puzzle keeps shifting.
And I think the biggest driver for the March strength in exports was Southeast Asia. You just saw a massive jump in exports to Southeast Asia, 33-something%. And now Southeast Asia is actually, the ASEAN, 10 ASEAN countries are now China's largest export destination, exceeding the US, exceeding the EU.
Now, let's fast forward to 2023, when China and Africa are dancing to a whole new tune in the trade game. It's like they've cranked up the volume and hit the dance floor with a vengeance. Trade between the two hit an all-time high. clocking in at a jaw-dropping $282 billion. That's an 11% jump from the previous year, guys. And what's fueling this economic fiesta? It's a mix of soaring commodity prices, China's doors swinging open, and Beijing rolling out the red carpet for imports from Africa. Here's the nitty-gritty. China's been gobbling up African goods like they're going out of style. Their exports to Africa hit a whopping $164.4 billion, while imports from the continent reached a respectable $17.51 billion. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Commodities. We're talking about the good stuff, crude oil, copper, cobalt, you name it, all fueling Africa's export frenzy to China. Take crude oil, for example. Prices went through the roof, starting the year at around $79.60 per barrel and skyrocketing to a mind-boggling $133.18 per barrel in early March, thanks to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But hold on just a sec. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. While Africa's overall trade with China hit a high note, some of their top dance partners, countries like South Africa, Angola, Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and Egypt, found themselves tapping their toes to a different beat. These resource-rich nations saw a downturn in trade, thanks to falling prices of key minerals, metals, and oil, the very stuff that China loves to import. Now let's turn our attention to China's dance partners around the globe. While their exports to the United States boogied up by a solid 5%, it's a different story with some of their old pals, like the European Union, Japan, and Australia. They're feeling a bit left out of the party, with trade declines on the horizon. It's like a mixed bag of goodies, leaving analysts scratching their heads and crossing their fingers for what's to come. With ongoing uncertainties and whispers of potential trade restrictions, it's no wonder nations are keeping a cautious eye on the trade sector's future. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Over in India, things are looking up. They're the fastest-growing major economy on the block, set to strut their stuff with a 7.6% expansion this year. And let's not forget about Russia. Sure, their dance moves might not be as flashy as last year's, but they're still keeping up with a respectable 12.5% increase in trade. Russia's still a major player in China's export game, proving that the BRICS crew is more than just a one-hit wonder. Now let's take a closer look at the role of the BRICS gang in China's trade game. Think of BRICS as China's trusty sidekick, helping them spread their trade wings far and wide. This crew of emerging economies opens up a whole new world of opportunities for China, giving them a chance to break free from the shackles of traditional markets like the United States and the European Union.
The battle for influence in Africa between the US and China is increasingly heating up.
But what's the big deal about BRICS, you ask? Well, for starters, it's all about diversity. By teaming up with these fellow emerging economies, China gets access to a whole buffet of markets, reducing the risks that come with relying too heavily on one region. And BRICS isn't just about talk. They're all about action, too. They're rolling up their sleeves and hammering out trade agreements left and right, slashing tariffs, smoothing out trade barriers, and making it easier for China to do business. But wait, there's more. China's not just sitting back and watching the BRICS party from the sidelines. They're diving headfirst into infrastructure projects across BRICS countries, especially through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. These projects aren't just about building roads and bridges. They're about building trade highways, making it cheaper and faster for China to get their goods into these markets. And let's not forget about the currency swaps and local currency trade agreements within BRICS. But here's the real kicker. BRICS isn't just about trade, it's about power too. By teaming up with these heavyweight economies, China's not just expanding its trade footprint, it's also flexing its muscles on the global stage. They're pushing for reforms in international institutions and trade rules, aiming to create a more balanced playing field that works in their favor. Think of BRICS as China's secret weapon in the world of trade. Now let's wrap things up by taking a closer look at the challenges that lie ahead for China's export expansion in 2024. It's like navigating a maze full of twists and turns, but with a bit of strategy and a whole lot of luck, China's ready to tackle whatever comes their way. First up, we've got geopolitical tensions looming on the horizon. With countries butting heads left and right, China's trade relationships could take a hit, making it trickier to access those juicy markets they've been eyeing up. But that's not the only bump in the road. There's also the looming threat of a global economic slowdown, which could put a damper on demand for Chinese goods. And let's not forget about those pesky trade barriers, tariffs, sanctions, you name it. That could slam the door shut on market access faster than you can say, trade deal. And then there's the challenge of diversification. China's been eyeing up new markets, trying to spread their trade wings beyond the usual suspects. But breaking free from the shackles of traditional markets is easier said than done. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. China's got a few tricks up its sleeve. They're adapting to supply chain shifts, staying ahead of the curve with technological innovation, and even greening up their act to meet those pesky environmental sustainability pressures. So, what's the bottom line? Navigating these challenges won't be easy, but if there's one thing we know about China, it's that they're not afraid of a challenge. With a bit of savvy and a whole lot of determination, they're ready to maintain and even grow their export dominance in 2024 and beyond. So stay tuned, guys, because it's going to be one heck of a ride. And to watch the latest geopolitical news, watch this video here.